The sun was setting over the sprawling mansion, its golden light reflecting off the polished glass windows and manicured gardens. The estate was enormous, with tall gates that glinted under the last rays of the day. Inside, the air was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft murmur of conversation among the elite who had gathered for the evening. The mansion belonged to a billionaire known for his wealth, his sharp mind, and, more than anything, his pride. People admired him, envied him, and sometimes feared him, because he was a man who always got what he wanted. Tonight, he was in the mood for entertainment, but he also wanted to remind everyone of a lesson, that some things were simply beyond their control. At the center of the mansion's grand courtyard was his dog. Not just any dog, but a massive, fierce animal with a muscular body, sharp teeth, and eyes that glowed with intelligence and caution. The dog had been with the billionaire for years, a loyal companion and guardian, but also a creature no one could tame. Trainers had tried, guards had tried, even the billionaire himself had struggled at times. Its presence was intimidating, and the guests had learned to keep their distance. It was known across the city that this dog was untouchable, untamable, and a true challenge for anyone daring enough to approach it. The billionaire, dressed in a tailored suit that shimmered slightly under the lights, stood near the dog. He had a smile on his face, but it was a proud, almost cruel smile, the kind that made people feel small. He looked at the gathered crowd and decided it was time for a little amusement. "No one," he said loudly, his voice carrying across the courtyard, "can calm my dog. I promise you, it is impossible. Not one person has ever done it." There was a murmur among the guests. Some laughed politely, thinking it was a joke, while others nodded, remembering stories of the dog's fierce nature. Then he raised a finger, and the murmurs quieted. "In fact," he continued, a twinkle of mischief in his eyes, "I will bet $1 million that no one here can calm him. Anyone who thinks they can, step forward. If you succeed, the money is yours." He laughed, a rich, confident laugh, imagining the stunned faces of those brave enough to even consider trying. The courtyard fell silent for a moment, the dog shifting its massive head and letting out a low, warning growl. The guests instinctively took a step back. Some whispered to each other, shaking their heads. Who would be crazy enough to attempt it? "It's just a bet, but that dog isn't playing." The billionaire's bet was bold, almost insulting, but no one dared to challenge him. Outside the mansion, in the nearby streets, life continued at a different pace. The wealthy were inside, enjoying their luxuries, but not far away, the city held its own stories. A little girl, no more than 10 years old, was walking along the sidewalk. She was small, with dirt-smudged clothes and worn shoes. Her hair, though tangled, had a softness that suggested she had once been cared for, but now she wandered the streets alone. She carried a small, faded backpack, her only possession besides a piece of bread wrapped in cloth. She had been looking for a place to sleep, for food, and for safety. Her life was hard, and yet there was a spark in her eyes, a quiet strength that had kept her going through long nights and empty days. As she walked, she noticed the mansion. It was beautiful, almost magical under the setting sun, with gardens that seemed to stretch forever and lights that twinkled like stars on earth. She had never been inside, of course, but something about the sounds from within, the laughter, the music, pulled her closer. Perhaps it was curiosity, or maybe it was hunger, or maybe it was the hope that something extraordinary could happen. Without thinking much, she followed the path leading to the back of the estate, where the grand courtyard could be seen from the outside through a slightly open gate. Inside, the billionaire had now grown tired of waiting for volunteers. He gestured toward his dog, and it responded immediately, growling louder, showing its teeth, and pacing back and forth like a storm waiting to break. The guests shivered, some stepping further back. They had never seen anything like it, not in all their lives. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The billionaire's chest swelled with pride. He knew he owned not just the dog, but the fear and admiration of everyone around him. Money, influence, and control, these were his domains, and he was untouchable. Or so he thought. Meanwhile, the little girl had found herself near the courtyard gate, peering through a small opening. She froze when she saw the dog. Its size alone made her heart race, but she was not afraid in the usual way. She had faced fear before, in alleyways, in cold nights, and in hunger that made her stomach ache. This fear was different. It was respect, but also curiosity. She could see the dog's energy, its tension, and somehow, even from a distance, she felt it needed something it was not getting. It was not just hunger or training, it was something else, something deeper, something emotional. The billionaire noticed movement near the gate. He squinted, frowning. "What's that?" he asked one of his guests. "Some street urchin." The guests laughed nervously. The little girl's presence was ignored at first, assumed to be insignificant. But the billionaire's pride would not allow him to overlook it for long. If someone even attempted to challenge his claim, he would confront them. The girl, noticing the dog's agitation, stepped closer to the gate. She whispered softly, not to anyone, but as if talking to the dog itself. Her voice was calm, gentle, almost musical in its softness. The dog stopped pacing for a moment. Its ears twitched. Its growl softened. The billionaire, seeing this from afar, narrowed his eyes. He had never seen anyone approach the dog without fear, let alone calm it with nothing but words. His amusement turned to curiosity, then to a flicker of anger. "Who is that?" he demanded. "Get that child away from my dog." But the girl did not move. She crouched slightly, her small hands reaching through the bars of the gate. "Shh, it's okay. You're safe," she murmured. The dog stepped closer, nose twitching, eyes softening. The billionaire's heart raced, a strange feeling rising inside him, something unfamiliar. Pride, control, money, they seemed to matter less in that moment. The crowd of guests had stopped laughing. Whispers spread through the courtyard. "Did she calm it? Impossible. Who is that little girl?" Phones were raised, cameras recording. The billionaire watched, fascinated and alarmed. His bet, his pride, and his sense of superiority were all being challenged by a small, homeless child. For the first time that evening, the billionaire felt a thrill not from power or wealth, but from something entirely new. The girl's courage, her calm, and her connection to the dog were undeniable. He clenched his jaw, determined not to lose face, but deep inside, he could not deny the truth. Someone had stepped into his world, into his challenge, and had touched what he believed no one ever could. And so, in the golden light of the setting sun, a small, homeless girl and a billionaire's untamable dog were about to change each other's lives in ways no one could have imagined. The little girl's small voice drifted softly through the air, carrying a calmness that seemed impossible near such a fierce animal. The dog, massive and strong, paused in its pacing. Its sharp eyes, which had scared countless people before, now softened slightly as it looked at her. It was as if the girl's voice had reached a part of the dog that no one had ever touched before. The billionaire, standing nearby with his arms crossed, felt a shock run through him. He had seen hundreds of trainers, experienced guards, and even professional animal handlers fail to control his dog. And now, a small girl, in worn shoes and tattered clothes, was doing something he could not explain. His pride battled with his curiosity, but ultimately, curiosity won. He had to see what was happening. "Bring her here," he shouted to one of his assistants. His voice was firm, but there was a hint of nervousness hidden under the bravado. The assistant hesitated, unsure how to approach a child so near a dog that could crush a grown man with ease. But the billionaire's command left no room for delay. The girl, still crouched at the gate, sensed movement behind her. She turned her head slightly but did not stop speaking to the dog. "It's okay," she whispered. "You don't have to be scared. You don't have to fight anyone. She reached out a tiny hand, not touching the dog yet, just letting her fingers hover near the gate. The dog sniffed the air, its massive head tilting slightly, as if it could sense the girl's sincerity. The crowd had fallen silent. The laughter and chatter from earlier had vanished. Phones were raised, capturing every moment. Guests leaned over each other, whispering, eyes wide in disbelief. "Look at her," one woman whispered. "She's calming it." Another man shook his head. "It's impossible. That dog never listens to anyone." Even the billionaire's closest friends, who had spent years observing his wealth and power, were now speechless. Finally, one of the assistants approached the gate cautiously, keeping a hand near his belt in case the dog lashed out. "Sir, should I?" he began, but the billionaire waved him off. "Just watch," he said. His voice was tight, controlled, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He took a step closer himself, not to intervene, but to witness the impossible. The little girl smiled gently, a small, knowing smile that seemed far older than her years. "You're not angry," she murmured to the dog. "You just want someone to understand you. That's okay. I understand." The dog's low growl subsided completely. It lowered its massive head, sniffing the air near her hand. Slowly, it stepped closer, each movement cautious but deliberate. Gasps came from the crowd. "Did you see that?" someone whispered. "It's obeying her." Others shook their heads, unable to comprehend how such a tiny human could calm a creature so powerful and wild. The billionaire's jaw tightened. Pride and disbelief battled within him. He had never experienced this kind of feeling before. For years, he had controlled everything: businesses, people, even animals, but nothing like this had ever happened. The girl crouched slightly, letting the dog approach. "Good boy," she whispered softly, her voice gentle yet confident. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you." The dog sniffed closer, then slowly sat down, a gesture no one had ever seen from him willingly. Its ears relaxed, and the intimidating tension in its body melted away. For the first time in its life, the dog was calm because of someone who had no title, no wealth, no power, just kindness and understanding. The billionaire stepped forward, unable to contain himself any longer. "How?" he began, his voice trailing off. He had always believed that money and authority could control everything, yet here was proof that neither could touch the heart of his dog. The little girl looked up at him, her eyes steady and confident. "I didn't do anything special," she said simply. "I just listened." The guests were stunned. Some laughed nervously, thinking it must be a trick, while others stared in awe. The dog remained seated, calm and relaxed, even as the billionaire stepped closer, his expensive shoes crunching softly on the stone courtyard. "Do you understand what you've done?" he asked quietly, almost as if he were speaking to himself. "No one has ever done this." The girl nodded. "I understand him," she said. "He's not dangerous. He just needed someone to care, someone to show him it's okay to trust." Her voice carried a wisdom that was startling for someone so young. She looked around the courtyard and noticed the wide eyes of the guests. She smiled faintly. "He's just scared sometimes. That's all." The billionaire felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride, humility, surprise, and admiration all collided inside him. He realized, in that moment, that he had underestimated something important. Power and wealth were meaningless if you could not connect with others, whether they were humans or animals. And this little girl, homeless and unnoticed by the world, had shown him something he could not buy. He stepped back slightly, giving the girl space, and raised his hand toward the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said slowly, his voice stronger now, "I was wrong. She has done what no one else could. This little girl has calmed my dog." The crowd erupted in murmurs and applause. Some clapped quietly, others cheered, but the energy of disbelief and amazement filled the air. Cameras flashed, capturing the historic moment. The little girl stood slowly, brushing the dirt from her worn clothes. She looked at the billionaire, who now approached her more gently, with a respectful smile. "You've earned the bet," he said. "The $1 million is yours, if you want it." She blinked, unsure. Money had never been her goal. She had never expected anything like this, not from someone so rich and powerful. Her life had been about survival, about finding small moments of peace in a world that often felt harsh and unforgiving. Instead of answering immediately, she reached out to gently pat the dog's head. The dog leaned into her touch, eyes half closed, calm and trusting. "He's okay now," she said softly. "Don't worry about him." The billionaire watched, his heart warmed by the scene. For the first time, he understood that wealth, while important, could never replace genuine care and understanding. Finally, she turned to him, a small smile on her face. "I don't need the money," she said simply. "I just wanted to help." The billionaire felt a lump in his throat. He had given commands, made bets, and challenged the world with his money, but no challenge had ever touched him like this. He nodded slowly. "Then, let me do something for you," he said. "You've changed tonight, not just for the dog, but for everyone here. Let me make sure your life changes too." The girl's eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing. She had lived with so much disappointment that offers like this felt unreal. Yet, looking at the billionaire, she saw sincerity in his eyes. He was not offering charity to boast or to be seen, he was offering a chance for her to have a life she had never known. The dog, still calm and seated at her side, seemed to sense the significance of the moment. Its loyalty was now shared, not just with the billionaire, but with the little girl who had shown it kindness and understanding. In that quiet courtyard, under the golden glow of the setting sun, a bond had formed that no amount of money or power could break. And so, the night ended with astonishment, admiration, and hope. A little homeless girl had faced the impossible, calmed a fierce dog, and shown a billionaire and everyone around that courage, empathy, and understanding could conquer what money and authority could not. The next morning, the little girl awoke to a world that felt completely different. The cold, empty alley where she had slept for months was gone from her mind, replaced by the warm sunlight streaming through the windows of a luxurious guest room. She blinked, unsure at first if it was real. The softness of the bed, the gentle warmth of the blankets, even the faint scent of fresh flowers on the nightstand, it all seemed too perfect, almost like a dream. She sat up slowly, her small hands brushing over the smooth sheets. Memories of the night before rushed back, how she had calmed the billionaire's fierce dog, the applause of the guests, the man's sincere words offering to help her. Her heart beat faster, a mix of excitement, fear, and disbelief. Could her life really be about to change so quickly? She had learned to survive on the streets, to trust almost no one, and now suddenly, a world of wealth and possibility was opening before her. A soft knock on the door startled her. "May I come in?" a gentle voice asked. She looked up to see a young woman in a neat uniform standing in the doorway. "Breakfast is ready, and Mr. Reynolds would like to see you in the garden when you're ready." "Mr. Reynolds?" The little girl's voice trembled slightly. That was the billionaire, the same man whose dog she had calmed the night before. She felt her stomach twist with nervousness. What would he want now? Had she done something wrong without realizing it? She had never experienced kindness like this before, so her mind was filled with suspicion and wonder all at once. She stood slowly, sliding her small feet into worn shoes she had found under the bed. The woman smiled kindly and waited patiently as the girl made her way to the door. Stepping out into the hallway, she felt a sense of awe. The mansion was enormous, with polished floors, grand staircases, and sunlight bouncing off crystal chandeliers. Every detail shouted wealth and power, yet it also felt strangely inviting, not cold or intimidating like she had imagined it might be. In the garden, Mr. Reynolds waited near a fountain, the same dog sitting obediently at his side. But this time, the dog's fierce demeanor had completely disappeared. It wagged its tail gently as the girl approached, nudging her hand with its massive head as if greeting an old friend. She smiled, and a sense of comfort washed over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe. "Good morning," she said quietly, unsure how to address a billionaire she had just met the night before. "Good morning," he replied, his voice warm, not commanding. "I hope you slept well." His eyes, usually sharp and calculating in business meetings, softened as they looked at her. There was genuine concern and respect in his gaze. "I wanted to speak to you privately, to make sure you understand something important." The little girl's heart raced. She had never been treated with such care before. No one had ever asked if she understood or felt safe. She nodded slowly. I understand," she whispered. He gestured toward a bench under a blooming tree. "Please, sit," he said. She obeyed, sitting carefully as he took a seat across from her. The dog settled at her feet, lying down and resting its massive head near her lap. She instinctively reached down to pat it, and it leaned into her touch. "You know," Mr. Reynolds began, "last night was remarkable. I have spent years training this dog. I have spent millions on trainers, handlers, and specialists. No one, not a single person, could calm him. And yet, here you are." He paused, studying her face. "And it was not force. It was not fear or money. It was something much rarer." The girl tilted her head, curious but cautious. "Something rarer?" "Empathy," he said simply. "Understanding. Kindness. These are things money cannot buy, skills no training program can teach. And you, little one, have them in abundance." His words made her blush, but she also felt a warmth spreading inside her chest. For the first time, someone had recognized her for who she truly was, not for her poverty, her tattered clothes, or her circumstances. She looked down at the dog and then back at him. I didn't do it for you," she admitted. I know what it's like to be scared. And I could see he was scared. That's all." Mr. Reynolds smiled, a genuine smile that softened the harsh lines of his face. "That's what makes you extraordinary," he said. "You see fear and respond with care, not aggression. Most people would have run, or yelled, or tried to force him to obey. You understood him." The girl fidgeted, unsure how to respond. Compliments had always made her uncomfortable, and kindness was something she was not used to. Yet, something about the way he spoke made her trust him. There was no arrogance, no expectation of repayment, no hidden agenda. Just honesty and admiration. "I want to help you," he continued. "Not just with money, but with your life. You've been through so much, and I can offer you opportunities you have never imagined. Education, a safe home, and the chance to explore your talents. But only if you want it." The little girl's mind spun. A safe home? School? Food on the table every day? Clothes that weren't torn and shoes that weren't falling apart? She had never dreamed of such things. And yet, here they were being offered without question, without strings attached. She wanted to believe it, but the years of hardship made her hesitant. I don't know," she whispered. "People, they usually take things and then expect something in return. I don't know if I can trust that." Mr. Reynolds nodded, understanding her fear. "I don't expect anything," he said calmly. "I only ask that you give yourself a chance. You've proven you can calm a dog that no one else could. Imagine what else you might do if you had support and safety in your life." His words were simple, but they carried weight. They were a bridge between the world she knew and the world she could now enter. For a moment, silence fell between them, broken only by the soft rustling of leaves and the gentle splash of the fountain. The little girl looked down at the dog, feeling its steady, calm presence beneath her hand. Then, slowly, she looked back at Mr. Reynolds. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll try." His smile broadened. "That's all I ask." He extended a hand, not as a command or a bet, but as a gesture of welcome. She hesitated, then took it, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. In that handshake, a silent promise was made, a promise of safety, support, and opportunity. The dog nudged her again, as if approving her decision. She laughed softly, a sound she had not made in a long time. It was pure, unburdened, and full of hope. Mr. Reynolds chuckled, a rare, warm sound that seemed to fill the garden with light. "I think we're going to get along just fine," he said. Over the next few hours, the little girl explored the mansion. She marveled at the enormous library, filled with books of every kind. She wandered through the halls, touching paintings and sculptures with awe. Everywhere she looked, she saw evidence of wealth and power, but also care in the form of cleanliness, order, and thoughtful details. She felt out of place and yet strangely at home, as if she had always belonged somewhere like this, even if she had never known it before. When lunchtime came, she ate with Mr. Reynolds and his staff. She discovered food she had never tasted: fresh bread, fruit, cheese, and other treats. The flavors were new, exciting, and comforting. She laughed when the dog gently nudged her plate, hoping for a piece of bread. Mr. Reynolds watched her with amusement, happy to see her finally relaxing, enjoying the small pleasures of life. By the end of the day, the little girl understood something important: life could be different. It did not have to be a constant struggle for survival. People could care, and they could be trusted. And while she still had fears and doubts, she knew that, for the first time, someone was on her side without expecting anything in return. That night, as she lay in her new bed, she thought about the events of the past day. The dog curled up near her, its warm body a comforting presence. She thought about Mr. Reynolds, the billionaire who had once been just a stranger, now offering her a chance at a life she had never imagined. And she thought about herself, the little girl who had calmed the impossible, who had dared to show kindness when no one expected it. The following days passed in a whirlwind of new experiences for the little girl. Every morning, she woke up to the gentle sunlight spilling into her room, a room she now knew was entirely her own. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to worry about someone taking away her bed, her food, or her few belongings. The comfort she felt was overwhelming, but it also brought a strange new challenge: learning how to exist in a life so different from the one she had always known. She spent her mornings exploring the mansion with the staff, learning small tasks that helped her feel useful. From tending to the garden flowers with the gardener to organizing books with the librarian, every activity was a step toward a world she had never imagined. She discovered she had a natural curiosity and a quick mind, soaking up knowledge like a sponge. The gardener showed her how to plant seeds carefully, water them just right, and care for them as they grew. She found a quiet joy in watching the tiny green sprouts emerge, feeling a connection to something living and fragile that she could nurture. Despite the luxury and safety surrounding her, she could not ignore the moments when memories of the streets came rushing back. She would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, feeling the cold concrete beneath her, or imagining the fear of being alone. But each time, the dog would nuzzle her, and she would feel a sense of calm she had never known before. It reminded her that she had friends now, and she didn't have to face the world alone anymore. Mr. Reynolds visited her each day, sometimes casually, sometimes to offer lessons or guidance. He had a calm way of speaking that made her feel understood, never rushed, never judged. "You have great potential," he told her one morning as they walked through the library. "Many children never get the chance to learn and explore the world. But you, little one, can accomplish things they can only dream of. You just have to believe in yourself." She nodded, trying to understand the weight of his words. "But I've never done anything special," she said softly. "I've just survived. He smiled, a gentle smile that didn't make her feel small or unimportant. Surviving is a skill few people master, especially at your age. It requires courage, intelligence, and resilience. That is the foundation for everything else you will learn. His words made her feel both proud and nervous. She had survived alone for so long that the idea of achieving more seemed almost impossible. Yet, there was something about Mr. Reynolds' belief in her that planted a seed of hope in her heart, a seed that whispered that perhaps she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. The dog, too, became her constant companion. The once fierce, unapproachable animal now followed her everywhere, wagging its tail, nudging her hand for affection, and even responding to her soft words. She found joy in their simple interactions, teaching the dog small tricks and watching its intelligence and loyalty shine through. It became a symbol of the bond between her past and her present, a reminder that kindness and understanding could change even the hardest hearts, whether human or animal. One afternoon, Mr. Reynolds invited her to join him in the study, a room filled with documents, photographs, and plans for his many businesses. She felt nervous stepping inside, unsure if she was allowed in a place usually reserved for serious work. But he waved her in with a smile. "I want you to see something," he said, showing her a series of photographs of dogs he had trained over the years. Many of them looked fierce, dangerous, or unmanageable. "I spent years trying to calm each of these dogs," he explained. "Some were aggressive, some were scared, some were just stubborn. And yet, no one could calm them completely. Except you." The girl looked at the photographs, her small fingers tracing the images. She felt a mix of pride and humility. I just listened to him," she whispered. "And that is exactly why you succeeded," he said softly. "You listened. You understood. That is a skill far more valuable than money, more powerful than any training or technique." The girl smiled shyly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. For so long, she had been invisible, ignored, or mistreated. And now, someone recognized her value not for her beauty, her wealth, or her status, but for her heart, her empathy, and her courage. Over the next few days, Mr. Reynolds arranged for lessons for her, both academic and practical. A tutor helped her learn reading, writing, and basic math, while a gentle instructor taught her how to communicate effectively with both humans and animals. She absorbed every lesson eagerly, fascinated by the world of knowledge she had never accessed before. It was a challenge, yes, but also an adventure, and for the first time, she felt like her mind had a home, just as much as her body did. Despite her excitement, there were still moments when doubt crept in. She wondered if she truly belonged in this world of luxury and opportunity. Could someone like her, a girl who had survived the streets, really fit into a world of wealth and privilege? Each time these thoughts arose, she would look at the dog, at the kind eyes of Mr. Reynolds, and at the blooming garden outside her window, and she would remind herself that she had already overcome far greater obstacles. She had calmed the impossible, and that was proof that she could face anything. One evening, as the sun set behind the mansion, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the girl sat on a bench in the garden, the dog resting its head on her lap. Mr. Reynolds approached and sat beside her, watching the sky in comfortable silence. "You know," he said finally, "this garden is a lot like life. You plant seeds, you care for them, you protect them from harm, and eventually, they grow into something beautiful. The same goes for people. You have potential, and it is my hope to help you grow, carefully and patiently, into the best version of yourself." The little girl nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She realized that her life was no longer a series of struggles to survive but a journey of learning, growing, and discovering who she could become. And for the first time, she felt ready to embrace it fully, without fear or hesitation. In the following weeks, she continued to learn, explore, and build confidence. She discovered new talents she had never imagined, from reading maps to understanding basic business concepts, to forming strategies for training the dog. Each new skill made her feel stronger, more capable, and more connected to the world around her. She began to understand that her past, while harsh and difficult, had given her unique strengths, resilience, empathy, and intelligence that she could now use to shape her future. Mr. Reynolds continued to support her, always encouraging but never forcing her. He understood that trust and growth came with time, not pressure. And in this environment of safety, guidance, and encouragement, the little girl began to truly thrive. She laughed more, spoke more, and even shared small stories of her past, slowly letting go of the fear and shame that had haunted her for so long. The dog, once a symbol of fear and challenge, had now become a companion and a reminder of her own strength. Together, they would explore the gardens, practice commands, and even perform small demonstrations for the mansion's staff. Each success built her confidence further, showing her that she was capable of achieving the impossible. By the end of Part 4, the little girl had not only adapted to her new life but had begun to transform it. She was no longer just a survivor, she was a learner, a helper, a friend, and a young girl discovering the power of her own heart. And all the while, the bond between her and Mr. Reynolds grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and the understanding that kindness and empathy were more valuable than any fortune. The days had grown brighter and longer for the little girl, who now no longer felt like the frightened, homeless child she had once been. Each morning, she woke with a sense of purpose, eager to explore, learn, and grow. The mansion was no longer just a building of grandeur, it had become a home filled with laughter, curiosity, and love. Even the once imposing dog now greeted her with excitement every morning, tail wagging furiously as if to say, "Good morning, my friend. Let's face the day together." One particular morning, Mr. Reynolds called her into the grand hall. The girl felt a flutter of anticipation mixed with nervousness. She had learned that whenever he called her to the hall, something important was about to happen. The sun streamed through the tall windows, casting long golden streaks across the polished floor. The dog followed closely behind, sniffing and wagging as it sensed the girl's nervous excitement. "Today," Mr. Reynolds began, "you will prove something very important. You have already shown me what you are capable of. Now, the world will see it too." The girl's heart raced. She knew this day would be significant, but she did not know exactly what he meant. He led her outside to the mansion's large courtyard, where a small gathering had formed. Several of Mr. Reynolds' friends and business associates were present, all curious to witness the event. In the center of the courtyard, the dog, once wild, unmanageable, and feared by everyone, stood, its coat shiny under the morning sun. Some of the guests whispered to one another, recalling the rumors that no one in the city could calm this dog, no matter how much they tried. The girl took a deep breath, remembering all the lessons she had learned in the past weeks. She remembered the patience required to earn trust, the gentle words, the soft touch, the quiet understanding of the dog's fears and needs. She stepped forward with steady steps, keeping her voice calm and gentle. "Hello, boy," she said softly. "It's okay. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." The dog's ears twitched, and its eyes, once sharp and wary, softened. It sniffed the air around her and took a cautious step forward. The girl knelt down slowly, keeping her hand extended but relaxed. The dog approached, nuzzling her palm as if confirming that she was safe. The gathered crowd watched in awe, holding their breaths. Slowly, the girl stood, keeping the dog close by her side. She spoke softly, giving the dog small instructions, encouraging it gently, and rewarding it with a calm tone and kind words. The dog obeyed every instruction, responding not because it was forced but because it trusted her completely. The crowd erupted in astonished applause, whispering among themselves about the miraculous transformation they had just witnessed. Mr. Reynolds smiled, his eyes glistening with pride. "See," he said softly, turning toward the girl. "You did what no one else could. You believed in him, and he believed in you. That is the power of understanding, patience, and kindness." The little girl felt a surge of happiness and pride. She realized that all her struggles, all the nights spent in fear and uncertainty, had led her to this moment. She had faced impossible odds before, and now she had conquered another. But this victory was different. It was not just for her, it was for everyone who had ever been told they could not succeed, who had ever felt small, helpless, or forgotten. After the demonstration, Mr. Reynolds gathered the crowd. "Now," he said, "let's settle the bet." He turned to his friends with a broad smile. "I bet $1 million that no one could calm my dog. Today, this little girl proved me wrong." The crowd gasped, realizing that the homeless little girl, whom many had underestimated, had not only succeeded where adults had failed but had done so with grace, courage, and intelligence. The little girl blushed, not because of the attention but because of the weight of the achievement. She had accomplished something extraordinary without expecting reward or recognition, simply because she cared. "Your reward," Mr. Reynolds continued, "is not just the money. You have already received a home, love, and guidance. But this bet is also a celebration of your spirit, your heart, and your incredible ability to believe in the impossible." He handed her a check, not as a gift but as a symbol of her success. She held it in her hands, amazed by the journey that had brought her to this point. She had gone from a homeless child, wandering the streets alone, to a young girl who had earned respect, admiration, and a place in the world where she could thrive. In the weeks that followed, the little girl continued to learn, grow, and explore her potential. She helped train other dogs in the mansion's kennels, teaching them with the same patience and understanding she had shown to Mr. Reynolds' dog. She became a symbol of hope and inspiration not only to the mansion's staff but also to the local community. Word of her incredible bond with the dog and her courage spread throughout the city, and people began to see that even the smallest, most overlooked individuals could accomplish extraordinary things. Mr. Reynolds, proud as ever, continued to mentor her. He introduced her to opportunities that nurtured her talents, from creative projects to learning about business and leadership. Each day was filled with discovery and growth, and the girl embraced every challenge with enthusiasm and confidence. She had learned that life was not just about surviving, it was about thriving, helping others, and using one's abilities to make a difference. Despite all her new experiences, the girl never forgot where she came from. She often thought of the streets, the struggles, and the loneliness she had endured. Those memories, once painful, had now become a source of strength and compassion. She knew that her past had shaped her resilience, empathy, and courage, the very traits that had allowed her to calm the dog and prove herself capable of so much more. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the girl sat in the mansion's garden with the dog resting its head on her lap. Mr. Reynolds joined her, and for a moment, they sat in quiet reflection, enjoying the peace they had both helped create. "You've come a long way," he said softly. "From a child who had nothing to a young girl who now has everything she needs to succeed. And yet, the greatest treasure is not the mansion, the money, or even the dog. It is the strength, courage, and kindness within you. That is what will guide you through life." The girl smiled, her heart full. She realized that Mr. Reynolds was right. She had gained more than safety and comfort, she had gained confidence, purpose, and the knowledge that she could face any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. She looked at the dog, who wagged its tail in understanding, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and joy. From that day forward, her life was forever changed. The mansion became a place of learning, love, and inspiration. The little girl who had once wandered the streets alone had now become a symbol of hope, proving that no challenge was too great, no obstacle insurmountable, and no heart too small to make a difference. She had not only calmed a dog that no one else could, but she had also calmed the fears and doubts within herself, discovering a world filled with endless possibilities. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that she was ready for anything. The bond with the dog, the guidance of Mr. Reynolds, and the lessons she had learned would remain with her forever. She had proven to herself, and to the world that courage, empathy, and determination could change lives not just her own, but those of everyone around her. In the end, it was not the bet, the mansion, or the fame that defined her story. It was the heart of a little girl who believed in the impossible, trusted in kindness, and refused to give up, no matter how dark the path had seemed. And with that heart, she had created a future brighter than she had ever dared to dream.